webinar today, we're going to be focusing on preparing to work in the USA and Caribbean. In addition to that, we're also going to be looking at what the travel regulations are at the moment. Obviously, this year has been a very tricky year, so I think that's definitely a huge consideration if you're looking to work in the area, you know, whether or not you can travel there. So from a travel point of view, just giving us some travel updates on primarily the USA, and also obviously looking at what's happening with B1, B2 visas, and then also just touching on the Caribbean, because I know at the moment things aren't quite settled in the Caribbean. So we've got from BWA Yachting, we've got Obi, and we've also got Laura, and Laura's just trying to dial in as we speak, so hopefully Laura joins us.
Morning, how are we doing?
Nice to have you. Obi, whereabout are you based, just so you can let everyone know?
Certainly. So I operate BWA Bahamas, based in Nassau, Bahamas. And I'm basically one of the main boots on the ground guys here to help the yachters when they arrive, dealing with clearances and assisting with packages, guest relations, you name it, essentially.
Brilliant. And obviously, coming from the Bahamas, obviously you're going to give us a bit of an update on the area, because having touched base with you guys, I've heard that there is quite a lot of interest in people wanting to travel to the Bahamas at the moment. So yeah, we'll look forward to hearing that from you.
Definitely.
And then obviously from a recruitment perspective, we've got Terry from Bluewater, who's going to be helping give us a little bit more information about what's happening with the recruitment scene there. But we've also got Eva and Kristen from the Crew Network. So thank you guys for all joining. Obviously, you all cover the topic of recruitment. So what I'll do is I'll be splitting the questions up. So I'll ask you, Terry, a couple of questions related to recruitment, and then I'll ask Eva and Kristen a few other questions. But feel free at any point, if I haven't mentioned anything, or if there's anything that you think is really important that crew should know about, feel free just to jump right in and let us know. So yeah, so what I think we'll do is we will start with the recruitment side of things, and then we'll move into travel. So I can see we still haven't got Laura, who's quite joined us in the panel, in the video panel yet. So we'll make a start. Laura, I think Laura's in the chat, and she says she's not quite sure what's going on, but yeah, I'll try and connect her as we're going through the questions. Yeah, I think maybe what we can do is let's just start with Terry from Bluewater. Terry, can you just give us a sort of just looking really widely at the moment for anybody or any crew who's sort of really new to the USA and the Caribbean season? Can you tell us a little bit about the months that the season generally runs for? So if you are looking to come over, or you're looking to work in the season, what months should you really be considering for work in this region?
Well, typically yachting has two seasons. Normally it's the spring season, which is March, April, May, and June, and we're very busy here in the US because we do have a lot of our boats that do, South Florida, Bahamas. And then again, we get busy again in the fall season, which in the past has always been September, October, November, December. Typically our owners and our charter guests like to use the boat first trip, which is Thanksgiving. So in the past, we have always had a very successful, busy season here and in the Caribbean, kind of September, October, November, December.
Perfect. And so, I mean, based on what you've said there, I can see that it sounds like January and February might be a bit of gap months before then the spring season hits off. Do a lot of boats just hire all the way from September all until spring, or do you normally see sort of two different spikes in recruitment with those two sort of set little seasons?
We do see different spikes. I mean, typically our very slowest time is normally July and August. It's summertime here. A lot of our boats need to get out because of hurricane season and all that kind of stuff. So we do slow down considerably around about July and August, but yachting's changed, especially here in America. If you stay proactive and you're here, you know, especially for Americans, it can have a flow throughout the year. Obviously, busy times, spring and fall, but over the last few years, not this year, a little different because of COVID, but over the last year, even January and February, you can get a little busy. I feel like seasons are starting a little later lately, you know, but yeah, typically, yeah, seasonal.
Okay, brilliant. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think that definitely covers sort of the timing that crew should be considering. So in terms, obviously, so if work sort of, or the season sort of starts from September, would you advise crew, I mean, we're obviously already well into the start of October now, would you advise crew to head over in September usually? Or, I mean, even from now in October, is there still a lot of work and a lot of recruitment still happening?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, it gets cold over in Europe. Season starts to quieten down over in Europe come September. And I feel if they're able to and they have the correct visas, which is the biggest problem right now this year with COVID, that's why there's so many crews still stuck in the Med. They'd love to be over here. We'd love for them to be here, but unfortunately their hands are tied. But typically, when it's a normal season, we would like to see our crew start being in the US in September, start updating their profiles, popping in to see the agents, starting the communication going. There's a lot of the day work that happens. So September is a good time for crew to head back over on this side from the Med so we can start, getting them, you know, all clued up with everything, going through their profiles, like I say, helping them with their resumes. It's a good time, but it is different this year.
Okay, yep, and I mean, we've heard a lot about, you know, I think obviously when you say visas, particularly the B1, B2 visa is the big visa that seems to be the visa that crew are struggling to get at the moment. Is that right?
Absolutely right.
And a BWA, I know you guys are going to cover just all the sort of rules and regulations surrounding that visa, so we can delve a little bit deeper into that when we come to you. Mm-hmm. So in terms of sort of the outlook for the season ahead, Terry, what is your outlook based on, you know, everything that's happened this year in the world?
I think it's a little too early to actually predict what the Caribbean season is going to be like. I mean, the good news is we are getting job orders every day, whether it's going to be Bahamas based for the season or Caribbean based, we are getting job orders. I mean, typically at this time of the year, we normally would be really, really busy with a lot more orders because we have a lot more boats already in the Caribbean. I think come November, we'll have a better idea because I think it all depends on the owners. Do they want to still be in St. Bart's for Thanksgiving, you know? And a lot of our charter guests want to be in St. Bart's for Thanksgiving. So we will have a better idea. But the orders are coming in. They are not as fast paced as they have in the past, but definitely we're all us agents here are getting orders from captain down to entry level to deck, you know? So we're optimistic. We are optimistic. We just can't really predict exactly. You know, obviously, I think the BVIs, I think they're still closed. I think they're open 1st of November or December. So again, I think then we'll have a better idea of how busy the season is going to be.
Yep, very much so. I think that's sort of been the situation. I think as travel regulations are changing really quickly, I think that will obviously have a big impact on how the season functions and in terms of how, you know, busy it is and, you know, where boats can go and travel.
And they change every day. The travel regulations change every single day. It's like you've got to keep up.
Yep.
I think that's a really important point, and obviously Obi, you'll touch on this, and I think this is one of the reasons why we probably aren't able to get a really good coverage on the Caribbean today, and that's just because I think there's so much changing, and a lot of the Caribbean countries haven't quite set their regulations yet for what you know, in terms of travel. So obviously, Obi, I know you're going to touch on it, but I think because it's changing so much, it's definitely something that we want to follow. So we're hoping in about 4 weeks' time, we're going to give it a little bit of time, but we'll reschedule another webinar and we'll focus purely on this topic of travel in the Caribbean specifically, just because there's so much change going on. The final question I just have for you, Terry, before we move on to the crew network is just are there any positions that you find are more in high demand at the moment than others, or in the region really?
Always engineers.
Okay.
Always the engineering department, you know, because it's licenses, it's qualifications, you know, there is always a demand for licensed engineers, and there always has been. We're getting a lot of great newbies coming into the industry, wonderful guys and girls who've got the right work ethic, right attitude. Yeah, we've got all our crew, but because it's my department, I have always found that that is the most challenging position for me, is to find, they're out there. Engineers are always out there, and they are always, you know, working on them, bettering themselves and getting their licenses. But once you get these licenses, like a Y3, the demand for a Y3 chief engineer who wants to be on a 40 meter right now, it's slim. You know, they want to be on a 60 meter, they want rotation, and they want to have their own cabin. Like, my engineers have done this for a long time to know what they want. So that's where I find the most challenges, is finding my engineers.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I can see that I think we've just got Laura who's joined us, so that's really good news.
Yes. Hi, guys. Great to
Hi,
join
Laura.
you.
Brilliant. Okay, so what I will do now is, thank you so much, Terry. I think that was really useful. I'll move over to the crew network and also ask you guys a little bit more questions about recruitment in the area. So maybe can you guys just tell us a little bit about how recruitment has been for you sort of since the start of the pandemic and this year so far?
Yeah, so I couldn't agree with Terry more. She kind of said it perfectly, just for the consistency of how busy we have been and the job orders coming throughout COVID. I would say the main challenge would be the visa restrictions and finding people typically closer to the yacht, the better, the minimal travel that we can have to send out crew for interviews, for however they go about, you know, doing the interviews, the better. So that's kind of how we just changed the way we work, and, you know, looked for local crew close by the vessels with the proper visas and all licenses needed. And I mean, we've been pretty successful so far, and stayed consistently busy. So
brilliant. And I think, you know, to be honest, I think it was a fairly similar situation here in the Med. When we just came out of lockdown, we were already well into what would have been the season. So I think when we were speaking to a lot of agents at that time, I think it was the same situation of trying to find crew that were local in the area and who could get, you know, just hit the ground running and get on board. So what tips can you give crew who are looking to work in the USA and Caribbean? Obviously, they're slightly different if you want to be USA focused only, or you want to do more of the Caribbean. If it's your first season and you want to look for work, I mean, obviously visa granted. So say you've got the visa, is it worth flying over without a job and just trying to look for a job in the region?
yeah, I would say it's definitely worth it. You know, Eva and I discussed this morning and kind of came up with a list of, you know, what, especially entering into the industry, what to do. And really, I mean, just be responsive to all your emails, be proactive, be sure your resume has no errors on it at all your references are updated contact details, and, you know, get to know a handful of agents when you get over here, and build that relationship with them, keep them posted, and just market yourself wherever you can on either social media within the agents. A couple different, you know, Yacht Spot is a good one that everyone kind of searches through. But we're always looking for crew that are here, you know, from the Med, whether it's, you know, entry level all the way up to captains with B1, B2 visas.
Perfect. And then in terms of, I mean, it's sort of connected to just coming over and looking for work, but is dock walking a good idea? And if so, which ports would you recommend are the sort of hotspots if that was going to be your approach?
Well, post-COVID, I hesitate on recommending any dock walking. Really, I think virtually through social media and just, you know, really building those relationships with your agents is going to be a better route. Just, you know, you'll look more professional and look like you're respecting everything going on, respecting the distance and staying safe. I think that you can find success doing mostly everything virtual now rather than dock walking. So I'd have a hard time recommending to get out on the docks right now.
I think that's a fair point, and sorry, that probably would have been a bit of a trick question, but I think you're right. You know, I think I don't even know why dock walking. I even considered asking you that in this time, because you're right. I think it's just, you know, unfortunately, the world has moved a little bit more virtual since the pandemic. So it is obviously, I think the more things you can do virtually without having to go out and mix with lots of people, obviously the better for the situation right now. But then, I mean, you want to obviously be located in the right port then, so that if you do find a job virtually, you can go to the boat, you know, as soon as possible. Which ports would those be? And in terms of accommodation, you know, obviously in Europe, and I'm just thinking specifically on T, there are a lot of crew houses. Where do crew normally stay as a base while they're finding work?
I would say in Fort Lauderdale on 17th Street, I mean, most of all the housing around here is going to be crew homes, you know, available for weekly, daily, monthly, sort of. They're flexible with the amount of time you would stay, knowing that, you know, your ideal goal is to come here and get a position and not need a home base anymore. So that would be a main one. Some of the marinas around here to stay close by, which 17th Street is near them all, you know, is Bahia Mar, Port Everglades.
Sunrise as well. On Sunrise, there are quite a few boats. And also, in addition to what Kristen said, Fort Lauderdale is in between Miami and West Palm Beach, the other ports there. So that's also a good hub to be closer to everything.
Yeah, and I think there's quite a bit of crew housing up in West Palm Beach as well, which is a good place to go. A lot of yachts will spend their yard period up in West Palm Beach. So to stay local to there and even get yourself some day work and things, that's an excellent place to be. I'm not too familiar with many crew houses down in Miami. So I think, you know, it'd be worth staying closer to Fort Lauderdale and making possibly an Uber or something to meet the vessel in Miami.
Perfect. Thank you. That really answers the question. I mean, one question that I was asked by a yachty friend was, you know, obviously with the B1, B2 visa being quite difficult to get at the moment, would it be possible if someone had to fly into, say, the Caribbean, somewhere where they didn't need the B1, B2 visa, and would boats consider hiring someone who doesn't have that visa, even if they sort of staying around the Caribbean, or generally, sorry, is the visa a bit of like a mandatory sort of requirement if you want to find work in the region?
I think it depends on the client, if I can just answer that question, because we just placed a chef last week, and she is Italian. She doesn't have B1, B2, but the client was just so interested in her, and they offered her to get ESTA for the beginning because they're not coming to US anytime soon. And then in the future, in a couple of months, hopefully the COVID situation will be all sorted out and it will be easier to obtain B1, B2 visa. So everything depends on the client and if they are willing to help with boat papers and all the documents to get the B1, B2 visa.
Yes, and I think if the boat's based in the Bahamas, they're more open to interviewing and bringing somebody on board without their visa. If they've had a B1, B2 in the past, that would be even better. So the application to renewal, I believe, is a little bit more smooth and their chances are higher. But the opportunity is still there, especially if they stay based in the Caribbean most of the year.
Perfect. And I mean, I guess that's good news that I think crew should know that, I guess, you know, it's always good to put yourself out there. There might be a client who is very interested in you and maybe their cruising plan doesn't involve actually going into the US and staying in some of the Caribbean islands where you don't need a B1, B2 visa. So yeah, that's really good to know. I mean, I think that was all my specific questions with regards to recruitment, but was there anything in general that you would advise crew in terms of recruitment looking for work?
I guess just market yourself the best way possible. Be sure your social media profiles are professional and you're consistent. You answer the phone, you reply to emails, you answer each question asked, and send your documents. And also, if you're sending a follow-up email, be sure to remind the agent of which position you're interested in it, and show that you're interested. I think candidates that are more active and prove to us that they're very interested in the position and willing to commit long-term or throughout the contract details, then they'll have the higher chances, and we tend to push for them.
Brilliant. Yep. And I think that's really good advice. Terry, was there anything that you wanted to add before we move on to travel regulations, just in terms of recruitment? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to add that it's really important that crew educate themselves on these travel regulations, especially from their own countries. It's really, really important. There are so many amazing resources out there. GMT, they've got some amazing information. GMT Global Marine Travel, they offer so much information with regards to the paperwork that you need to ask your captain, for the B1, B2 to come over and stuff like that. Educate yourself, definitely, and adjust your expectations. It's a tough year, it's a different year, and just, go with what you have in your life right now. I know there's so many crew who want to be here right now, but they can't, they're in the Med. We're hearing that the yards in the Med are very, very busy. Go over there, try to keep day working, There's so much you can learn in a yard, there is just so much new things, and such a variety of skills that you do that before, and once everything changes, then it'll be back to normal. But really just readjust your expectations, and like I said, educate yourself on all the travel regulations.
Perfect. Thank you, Terry. I think that's definitely a nice final word for us to lead into Laura and Dobie from BWA, so we can finally get into these travel regulations, which I think obviously are dominating everybody's lives at the moment in the world. No matter who you are, what you want to do, travel regulations are the hot topics. So I don't know, Laura or Obi, I don't know which one of you want to start first. I don't know, maybe Laura, it might be best to start with you if you're going to focus on the US and the B1, B2 side of things, or I don't know if Obi, if you were planning to cover that.
Yeah, sure. I'm delighted to join you guys and give you a bit of a summary of the situation with visas for crew wanting to enter U.S. waters. As we're all aware, the Department of State suspended routine visa services worldwide in March because of the coronavirus, and some embassies have restarted to issue visas again. However, it goes by embassy. Every embassy is different, and we are lucky having offices all over the Mediterranean and Caribbean and the U.S. that we are able to get firsthand experience with different cases. So, until recently, we were very successful assisting crew to apply for B1, B2s in Madrid. It's getting trickier, and basically there are exceptions. There are exceptions for crew, and we've been recommending to provide enough documentation to prove to the embassy that you want to apply to why your visa is an emergency. The livelihood of the crew depends on receiving the visa that will allow the crew member to follow the itinerary of the vessel. So this will be easier for crew that already are employed. And as you had mentioned before too, if you've already been granted a B1, B2 visa, a renewal is it's easier than a first-time applicant. I am lucky that my husband is actually a U.S. diplomat, and we're posted to the U.S. Embassy in Barbados that covers the whole Caribbean region. So I am in regular touch with the General Consul here, trying to get updates and advice. And, it's a gray area. There is not a black and white advice. The conclusion that I come to every time we speak is the crew member should reach out to the closest U.S. embassy, and we might be able to assist making that connection with either contacting ourselves, the consular sections, or providing an email address, and explaining why is it an emergency, and an employment letter, a letter from the captain with an itinerary that has proven to be helpful. We have been successful getting visas, and there are, we've learned through this crazy, challenging time, we've learned some tricks. They're not really tricks, but how rules are changing. So we're learning that some embassies have completely stopped issuing B1, B2 visas, and if you try to apply for one, you will not be getting an appointment. However, some embassies have already started issuing C1D visas, which is not what crew wants. They want B1, B2. But we have been successful applying when the B1, B2 was not granted, or the appointment was not granted, by applying for a C1D, and then during the interview explaining the situation and requesting the B1, B2, we have seen the crew walked out with a B1 visa under the coronavirus exception.
Okay.
And we become
Laura,
very savvy. Yes.
Sorry, Laura, just to ask you, would you be able to share which embassies have granted visas since the general sort of pandemic started?
Yes, happy to answer. It's not straightforward. What has worked for a crew member, then we have a very similar case. They try the exact same formula, and then it might not have worked. But I can tell you that it depends on what level of strong diplomacy the embassy is at, which basically means the country where this U.S. embassy is, where are they with the coronavirus situation. If it's a country that is in level 2, which is the case of Barbados, it means that they restarted some routine visas. So, what one can do is reach out to the embassy and make a case. And I get told over and over, it's case by case, and make your case. And which embassies have I seen a more positive outcome? Stockholm, Oslo, Madrid, Malta. If there is any crew members with a New Zealand passport that are able to apply in their home country, I believe New Zealand is already dealing with all kinds of visas. I think Taiwan too. But I would be happy to make myself available if anybody wants to, preferably if a vessel has a number of cases that need to, a number of crew members that need to apply for visas, they can always reach out to me. We can talk about what's the best course of action. And we've seen lots of situations where, okay, here we are, what do we do? And we've reached out to a number of embassies. We got some negative replies, and then we managed to make a case in Stockholm, and Stockholm went ahead and issued a B1 visa.
Brilliant. And Laura, just to let all of our listeners know, so you obviously you work for BWA Yachting. Whereabout are you located, just so everyone knows?
I am actually located in Barbados because I follow, my husband's career as a U.S. diplomat, but my area of responsibility with BWA is the Americas, and I'm in regular times. I'm often find myself in the U.S.
Okay. And would it be okay if I share your email address in the webinar chat, so anyone who wants to get in touch with you to ask about questions relating to B1, B2 can email you directly?
Certainly. I only ask that if the vessel has a few crew members, so that I get one email from the captain, the purser, or whoever the crew member that is in charge of assisting with crew visas, so that we can address it per boat.
Perfect. Okay, I'll share your details right now. Okay, I mean, I think that was really, really useful. I mean, I know so many people I see questions on the Facebook groups all the time, crew asking, has anyone got a B1, B2 visa? If so, where can they apply? I think based on what you said, obviously it's so situational dependent, and obviously things are changing all the time. So I think, you know, based on what you said, Laura, and maybe you can tell me what you think, but I think the recommendation that crew should be really reaching out to agents where they can to get the most up-to-date advice, because I think trying to maybe do it on your own, it might be a bit difficult. Is that right?
You can always try to do it on your own, do your research online, reach out to your closest embassy, read the latest updates, which keep changing. I'm constantly reading different embassy websites and the latest news. So you can certainly do your homework and keep yourself well informed. It is a very, very tricky time for visas. It's very difficult, but I find that if you really prepare your case, if you document very well why this is an emergency, you know, the embassies are not issuing routine visas, but crew members fall under an exception. Obtaining a B1, B2 visa, or at least a B1 visa, it's key to their livelihood. And it's an emergency as well, because for the well running of the vessel, they need their crew, they need their professional crew. So we can certainly assist with the process. We've got a lot of experience providing a guarantee letter. We will advise the captain to write a letter, anything that can prove that the crew member is indeed a professional crew member. This is not jumping into the opportunity of, you know, I might want to try this career. If you are a professional crew member and you need to follow your ship's itinerary, you fall under an exception, and embassies that are embassies that have experience dealing with super yacht crew members, they will see it as an exception.
Perfect. And just a quick one, I guess this depends on possibly embassies, but generally, what is the sort of processing time for B1, B2 visas?
It really depends on the embassy. I have seen a crew applying, and then we assist trying to expedite the appointment, and they were able to have the appointment within 4 business days, and 2 days later they've got their passport and visa back. And I have seen crew that applied, and the whole process took over a month. Okay. So it really depends. And even if we go to the embassies where we were successful expediting the appointment, the fact that it happens with one case, it's no guarantee that it will happen again. Okay. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult situation. From my conversations with the general consul here in Barbados, who oversees the whole Caribbean area, they are aware of the frustration. They are very, very aware of the frustration. But it is an unprecedented time, and we're all, like you said, trying to adapt and find ways to continue our job the best we can. So, you know, definitely reach out to us. We might have some valuable tips, and we are here to assist the best we can.
Brilliant. Thanks, Laura. I mean, and just before we move on to Obi, is there, in general, with traveling to the US region, is there anything else? I mean, obviously, if you've got the B1, B2, great, all systems go, or you've got an American passport, is there anything that crew still need to be especially considerate about? I mean, obviously, the big one is it depends where they're traveling in from, because even though they may be valid to travel there, they need to be very considerate about the regulations between the US and the country that they're coming in from.
Yes, the U.S. borders are open. Crew are allowed to come in, even with the proclamation that people that have been present in the Schengen region may not enter the U.S. If they've been in the Schengen region in the past 14 days. Crew still fall under the exception. My advice is to document very well that they are indeed professional crew members, and also if there are if any crew member finds themselves in a very difficult situation, you know, we have had cases where crew that are currently in the U.S., they are overstaying their visa. The best advice is document your attempts of doing things right. Document every email to your agent, to embassies, to CBP, every attempt you've had to do things right, document it, because unofficially what I've been told is if any crew were to run into problems, as long as they can document that they really tried the best to do things right, there will be some kind of amnesty. This is not anything, this is not an official thing that you can find written down, but you know, we have seen it happening. We have seen crew arriving without a visa. We've managed to get them legally into the country, but extremely well documented cases. And again, we've also been able to assist crew that were overstaying their visa.
Brilliant. Thank you, Laura. I think, yeah, that's hugely, valuable information that you've shared with us today. And yeah, I think lots of crew will be, really happy to hear this. Obviously, everyone who's listening live, but also we'll obviously be sharing this recording via our YouTube channel and via Yachting International Radio. So I'm sure lots of people are going to listen to this, and potentially you might have a few more questions coming your way. But what I'm going to do, just looking at the time, I'm going to move on to Obi, who's based out in the Bahamas. Obi, can you tell us just, I know the Caribbean is just very much in flux at the moment. In sort of as a brief overview, could you just tell us a little bit more about what, in terms of travel, what's happening in the Caribbean?
Well, I can speak specifically for the Bahamas. I know in speaking with Lucille out of our St. Martin office, she's still trying to get information on the Caribbean. And as it's already been indicated, because we are in unprecedented times with COVID, regulations and protocols have been changing almost every other day. For us in the Bahamas, the Ministry of Tourism has been working with the government of the Bahamas, feverishly trying to maintain our main industry, which is tourism. We shut down the country in March, the middle of March, as most countries did. And then with a push from the Ministry of Tourism, after the Ministry of Health had their guidelines pushed through the government, we saw a soft opening of the country in June, the middle of June, for a opening of pleasure vessel travel and private aircraft travel into the Bahamas for essentially June 15th to July 1st. July 1st would have been the main portion of the opening. With that, we were able to salvage at least a part of the end of the summer season to boating. We saw a huge influx and request of yachts and boats coming over to cruise the Bahamas for that time period. And the government has been adopting its protocols essentially ever since. So as it stands right now, for anyone wishing to come travel to the Bahamas, and this is for citizens abroad, residents, and visitors, currently you are asked to show or provide a negative RT-PCR swab test, taken no more than 5 days prior to your arrival into the Bahamas. And then there is a website that is set up online. It's called travel.gov.bs. When you go to that website, it will provide you with 2 links, one for international travelers wishing to come to the Bahamas, and the other for domestic travel within the Bahamas. You will be asked to complete a health questionnaire, essentially, and upload your COVID test results into that platform. And then it is reviewed by individuals from the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Health to make sure that the documentation of your COVID negative result looks credible, and confirm the information that's on it. And then they will return a travel approval for you to come to the Bahamas. So we've had some fluctuations as to how long in advance, or what's the maximum time period that you could take this test and provide it to us for travel. It's been 5 days, 7 days, 10 days prior to arrival. But the one constant is that the need for the test has always been there. And this is for anyone that's coming in. Like I said, if you have crew that are coming to join the boat, everyone still falls under the same protocols. You have to have the negative COVID test and apply for the travel visa.
Thank you so much for just clarifying exactly what test that is, because I know that you know, everyone's talking about the COVID test, but there's obviously, or as we know, there are lots of different types of tests. So it's good that you were really specific about that that test that is required.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Now, in looking ahead to the future for the Bahamas, the government has said that we've also had an implementation of a 14-day quarantine, as most countries have done. The good thing, and due to the foresight of the Ministry of Tourism and the Bahamas government, they've allowed individuals to quarantine on their yachts, use that as a place of quarantine. So a charter guest could have a vessel here in the Bahamas waiting for them to arrive. They fly into one of the private FBOs, get into transportation, go straight to the yacht, and then the yacht has been able to essentially cruise to different locations in the Bahamas, and the government has looked at that as the guests being able to quarantine on that particular yacht, as long as they stick to the uninhabited islands in the Bahamas. They're requested essentially that you stay away from populous islands to maintain your quarantine.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Now, with that, there is an effort to do away with the essential quarantine, or as Ministry of Tourism has most recently called it, vacationing in place, quote unquote VIP. But to get rid of the quarantine aspect, we're now looking to move towards still maintaining the negative RT-PCR COVID tests prior to arrival, because of course the travel visa still needs to be applied for, and so the COVID test will still be required to be uploaded into that test for review. But they're looking to get rid of the quarantine and allow people to actually really enjoy the Bahamas and all of the islands by then implementing a rapid test to persons on arrival. Once you get here, they have Ministry of Health nurses at selected locations, airports and marinas, and they will administer a rapid test on arrival. And they're looking to have a second rapid test administered about between 4 and 5 days during the trip to confirm, of course, your negative status during the trip, so that you can fully enjoy the Bahamas. We're still working out the kinks of certain things. Most certainly things can change between now and then as they go through their protocols. But it has been interesting trying to deal with COVID in this time. I think that the government has made a great effort to keep the Bahamian population safe. while also still trying to maintain the tourism industry in the country, and have people visit and enjoy themselves. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Obi. I mean, that was really comprehensive, and I think really, really good to know that the Bahamas has made so many considerations to make yachting possible, obviously under those regulations. So that's really good news and good to know. Obviously, if anyone's got any questions specifically for traveling to the Bahamas, would I be able to share your details in the chat?
Most certainly.
Yeah. Okay,
yes.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And the last thing I was just going to say was, I know your colleague Lucille shared with me just the details for if crew wanted to travel into St. Martin and Antigua right now. Obviously, this could change tomorrow, but right now, I mean, and I'll just read that out if that's okay, Obi. I can just what she sent to me. So she said, for St. Martin, crew need to arrive with a negative RT-PCR COVID test that is no less than 120 hours old. For Antigua, crew needs to arrive with the same RT-PCR COVID test, obviously negative, less than 7 days old, so a little bit longer for Antigua. And then just a side note, she said, obviously for both islands, crew need to have all the employment, vessel joining, visas, and other supporting documents in order. And these are always arranged directly between the yacht captain and the agent. And obviously this isn't something that crew do on their own, but just useful information to know if any crew were thinking of obviously what would be required if they were traveling to either of those islands. But I think both those case scenarios are if you're on a vessel and you're traveling into those islands.
Yes, and so similarly for us, I always recommend to captains that I work with, even before COVID, to provide arriving crew with a crew joining letter, essentially stating that they are employed on this particular vessel, their position on the vessel, and then also what is normally very essential in the crew joining letter for us, particularly because of the crew having to go through immigration in the Bahamas, is to indicate some itinerary or timeline that the vessel is going to be cruising the Bahamas. And that is because you can fly into the Bahamas, and I've had instances where crew, were just recently hired and didn't fully know how long the boat was going to be cruising for in the Bahamas. And when they were questioned by immigration and they couldn't properly answer that, immigration would then enter them into the country for only a short period of time, say 5 days, 7 days or so. And then the vessel is here for a month. And then we then have to go and get an extension and apply for an extension at immigration headquarters after, which of course can be done. But if the itinerary, the crew joining letter then states the itinerary time period on there and immigration can clearly see it, then it's a lot easier for them to say, okay, well, this crew member is coming to join the vessel in the Bahamas, and the boat intends to be here for the month, so we can then enter them for that time period. As well as having the crew joining letter, I normally suggest that you have a copy of the crew list of the vessel with your name indicated on the crew list. And then also, since the vessel should have already been in the Bahamas cleared in, a copy of the Bahamas cruising permit and ship's registration. So all of that is proof that you are not coming to the Bahamas to look for a job, because that is something that is actually frowned upon, but you already have a job. You're joining a vessel that's already here in the Bahamas.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's really, really useful information. Thank you so much, Obi. I think just looking at the time now, we've got 5 minutes left. If any of our attendees want to pop a question into the chat, feel free to do that, and we can quickly cover that off. Just from my side, before we end off, if anyone's watching and is unaware about the PYA, we're the Professional Yachting Association. We serve crew worldwide, so we have a membership that crew can sign up to. And obviously, if you've joined today, there's a special membership discount of 20% off our membership. So you can get your C service verified, you can get assistance with NOE, COC applications, any applications that you're making with the MCA. We've got a personalized member assistance service. So if you've got a question about contracts or an issue with your employment, you can use our member assistance service. And we've got a range of other benefits in our sort of comprehensive membership package. So to make use of our discount today, you can sign up online on our website using the code WEB20. I've just popped that in the chat. So yeah, anybody who'd like to become a PYA member, feel free to do that. And obviously contact our team on info@pya.org if you've got any questions about getting your sea service verification or any assistance that you need with yacht rating certificates and the other services we provide. So yeah, I can't see any questions that have been added to the chat. As a sort of final word, was there anything that anyone wanted to say before we clock off today?
I just want to tell the crew, don't give up, just, stay proactive, stay in touch with us, and don't give up. This time too shall pass. We're always here. We like to keep the communications open, and just stay in touch with us.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Terry.
And I'd like to say, I've found that through this season, reaching out to everyone or just being in contact with everyone who's reaching out and providing essential information is something that we all love to do. We want to keep the business going. So certainly, again, you can share my email. Anyone who wants to ask a question about coming to the Bahamas can certainly reach out to me. The wonderful thing that the COVID started for us is we actually have a captain's group chat on WhatsApp that has almost 70 captains in it right now for vessels who've been cruising the Bahamas, and they've been sharing information within themselves, and we've been active in that group chat also. So we are definitely here to assist anyone, boats, vessels, crew, with information to make this a little bit easier, because it is a tough time for us all, and so we're just trying to keep the business going.
I've just popped
I wanted to mention.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Yes, I just wanted to mention that our Caribbean operation in St. Martin, BWA Caribbean, will be releasing an email with information on every island, with the latest information in the next few days. We have a massive mailing list for this email, but if anybody that is not already receiving these emails would like to receive the latest update, to please reach out to sxm@bwayachting.com, and we will add them to the mailing list with all the updates for the Caribbean.
Brilliant. Could you just repeat that address so everyone gets it correctly?
Yes, it's Sierra X M for Mike @bwayachting.com.
Brilliant. Perfect. I see that's just been popped in the chat. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's really useful. Yeah, any other final words before we close off?
So wishing everybody a very successful winter season.
Indeed.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all taking the time out your busy days to join us today. I think it's been really useful for all crew, and hopefully you get some useful questions that come flooding in. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.